Hello everyone, my name is John. Welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be talking about a chemical that has been banned in dozens of other countries. But yet you can still find this chemical in many of the breads being sold here in the United States of America. Well, why is this chemical still being sold? Well, for several reasons. One, because the FDA hasn't forced bakeries to stop using it. And number two, because it's cheap. So it's profitable for these bakeries. Now, the reason many of these other countries has banned it is because studies has shown that it is a possible carcinogenic. Well, what is this chemical? Stay tuned, we're going to talk about it. Walk into a bakery in London, Paris, or Toronto, and you won't find potassium bromate in the bread. It's been banned in the United Kingdom, the European Union, Canada, Brazil, and dozens of other countries. But walk into certain American bakeries, and you might be consuming this chemical, classified by the World Health Organization as possibly carcinogenic to humans. The chemical isn't in Wonder Bread or Pepperidge Farm anymore. Consumer pressure forced most major brands to remove it years ago, but it persists in enough American products that California felt compelled to ban it starting in 2027. The FDA still allows it, regulated under a decades-old prior sanctioned substance designation that predates modern safety standards. Potassium bromate is a powerful oxidizing agent added to flour to strengthen dough, create uniform texture, and produce the characteristic high rise in commercial baked goods. Bakers love it because it's cheap, effective, and produces consistent results. But here's what consumers aren't told. In 1999, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the WHO's Cancer Research Division, classified potassium bromate as Group 2B, possibly carcinogenic to humans, based on studies showing it causes kidney tumors, thyroid tumors, and other cancers in laboratory animals. That same year, the Center for Science in the Public Interest petitioned the FDA to ban it. 26 years later, the FDA still hasn't acted. This isn't a story about a dangerous chemical in your bread. It's a story about how America's food safety system lags behind international standards, how regulatory categories from 1958 keep outdated additives on the market, and why consumer pressure, not federal regulators, is finally driving change. Before we go further, let's be clear about what possibly carcinogenic actually means. Group 2B, where potassium bromate sits, means possibly carcinogenic, limited evidence in humans, and sufficient evidence in experimental animals. It's the lowest level of concern in IARC's classification system, indicating uncertainty rather than proven danger. So the question isn't, is this definitely going to give you cancer? The question is, why are we consuming a substance with any cancer evidence when safer alternatives exist? The IARC based its classification on animal studies showing potassium bromate causes kidney tumors, thyroid follicular cell tumors, and mesotheliomas in rats and mice. The mechanism involves oxidative DNA damage. The chemical literally damages genetic material. Most countries looked at that evidence and said, why take the risk? The FDA looked at the same evidence and said, the risk at current exposure levels is acceptable. Here's where America's regulatory system gets interesting. Potassium bromate isn't classified as generally recognized as safe, GRAS. Instead, it's regulated as a prior sanctioned substance, a designation for additives approved before the 1958 Food Additives Amendment. These substances were grandfathered in under old rules and have never undergone the rigorous safety reviews required for new additives today. It's regulatory limbo. The chemical exists because it was already there when stricter rules were written, not because modern science affirms its safety. The FDA limits potassium bromate to 0.0075 parts per 100 parts of flour and requires that it convert during baking to potassium bromide, a non-carcinogenic compound. Under proper baking conditions, most of the bromate should convert to bromide. But here's the problem. Most isn't all. And studies have found residual bromate in finished bread products, particularly in products that are underbaked or where excessive amounts were added. The FDA doesn't require testing of finished products, and enforcement is minimal. Most of the developed world took a different approach. The United Kingdom banned potassium bromate in 1990. The European Union followed. Canada banned it in 1994. Brazil, Peru, China, India, Nigeria, over 100 countries have prohibited its use in food. These countries didn't discover new science that America missed. They applied the precautionary principle. When credible evidence suggests potential harm, especially with readily available alternatives, remove the substance from the food supply rather than wait for definitive proof of harm in humans. Now, potassium bromate was first found to induce tumors in rats in 1982. Over 4 decades ago, the UK reviewed the evidence and passed the potassium bromate regulations 1990, completely banning its use in bread. 8 years after the evidence, they completely banned it. Canada reviewed the same evidence and they banned it in 1994. The European Union, following in lockstep, banned it as well. Now, what did the United States FDA do with the 1982 evidence? In 1991, 9 years after the rat tumor evidence, they encouraged bakers to voluntarily stop using it. Not to ban it, not to phase it out, but to voluntarily stop using it. Now, what was the industry's response? The American Bakers Association formed a coalition opposing state-level bans as recent as 2023. Their argument was that potassium bromate remains a valuable tool for bakers. No consideration for the health of their customers. 40 years after the tumor evidence emerged, American bakers are still adding this chemical to flour because the FDA asked nicely instead of acting decisively. The United States operates under risk-based assessment, weighing animal study data against estimated human exposure levels. This approach requires a higher burden of proof before banning a substance. Both systems have scientific justification, but the practical result is clear. Consumers in most countries don't eat potassium bromate. American consumers might. The bakery industry's response to international bans proves something important. Potassium bromate isn't necessary. Enzyme-based dough conditioners, ascorbic acid, vitamin C, and several commercial alternatives exist that the baking industry has successfully adopted in countries where bromate is banned. When major American brands like Wonder Bread and Pepperidge Farm voluntarily removed potassium bromate in the 2000s and 2010s following consumer campaigns and lawsuits, their products didn't collapse. The bread still rose. The texture remained consistent. The switch proved economically viable. King Arthur Baking has never used potassium bromate and proudly markets this fact. If a company can successfully operate without it, the question becomes, why is anyone still using it? In October 2023, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 418, banning potassium bromate from food products sold in the state, effective January 1st, 2027. California didn't wait for federal action because federal action wasn't coming. The state applied the same logic that drove international bans. Why allow a possible carcinogen in food when alternatives exist? The EWG Environmental Working Group notes that California's ban is already having a ripple effect. Rather than produce different formulations for different states, some manufacturers are reformulating products nationally to meet California's standards. This is how state-level action drives national change when federal regulators won't act. So where is potassium bromate still found? According to the Environmental Working Group's Food Scores database, over 200 products listed potassium bromate as an ingredient as of recent analysis. These include store brand and generic breads from smaller regional bakeries, hamburger and hot dog buns from food service suppliers, some bagels and English muffins, certain pizza doughs, and products from smaller commercial bakeries that haven't reformulated. You won't easily know if you're consuming it. While California requires warning labels on products containing potassium bromate, most states don't. The ingredient will be listed as potassium bromate in the ingredient list, but most consumers don't know to look for it or understand what it means. Food service products, the buns at restaurants, the rolls at cafeterias, are particularly likely to still contain it because these products face less consumer scrutiny than retail packaged goods. Let's be clear about what we know and what we don't. We know potassium bromate causes cancer in laboratory animals. We know it damages DNA through oxidative stress. We know the IARC classified it as possibly carcinogenic. We know residues can persist in baked goods. We don't know for certain whether the levels Americans typically consume cause cancer in humans. Epidemiological studies haven't been conducted because exposure is difficult to measure and cancer takes decades to develop. But here's what we absolutely know. Safer alternatives exist. work effectively and have been successfully adopted by the baking industry in over 100 countries. The FDA's position is that potassium bromate is safe at regulated levels when properly used, but the agency hasn't comprehensively reassessed this prior sanctioned substance using modern safety standards. The 1999 petition from CSPI requesting a ban has gone unanswered for 26 years. Consumer pressure achieved what regulators wouldn't. Major brands removed potassium bromate voluntarily. State action is achieving what federal regulators won't, forcing remaining manufacturers to reformulate. California's 2027 ban will effectively remove the chemical from a significant portion of the American market. The question isn't whether potassium bromate will definitely harm you. The question is, in a world where safer alternatives exist and have been successfully adopted globally, why should American consumers be exposed to a possible carcinogen at all? You deserve the same food safety standards as consumers in the UK, Canada, the EU, and over 100 other countries. Now, here's the thing. We probably all grew up eating bread. I know I did. Most of us probably did. But we don't know what we're eating. We didn't know any better. But now we do. We understand now. This is part of what we're doing here, is bringing this stuff to light. Because the solution is simple. There's a ton of videos, including in the MAP 30 challenge, where you can make your own bread instead of having to take a chance on what's in the bread that you're buying that's made with flour. There are alternatives. We have options. We don't even have to risk it. So I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Turn on that bell notification so that you will get every video that I release. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.